Hi, this is Peggy from Peggy's Tropical Garden. Thanks for stopping by for my October 2019 full garden tour. Okay, I'll start with the front garden beds. Here's the Cactus and Succulent Bed. The end of October, so it's still quite warm here in the Keys, and we're on the tail end of rainy season, so some of the plants are struggling. I will be making some changes to this bed by adding some more plants. I'll probably do that within the next week or two while the weather is cooling off rather than in the heat of summer. I know that most succulents you would typically wait until spring to plant, but here the sun is just too intense in spring, so I like to do it now, and that way the plants have time to acclimate before getting exposed to that extreme heat and sun. However, the more tender succulents are planted in my fountain. You'll notice that I have several desert rose plants, and usually they're in bloom year-round. I mean, just full of blooms and leaves. But since the garden makeover, when all of them were transplanted and moved and conditions changed and some of them were trimmed, they're just starting to bounce back. We are on an island of stone, so any of our plant beds have to be built up. There is no such thing as digging and planting a plant if you haven't put down some soil. But here you can see the fossils, and these are the stones that are used to build all of my plant beds. These Pachypodium lemerii were in pots, and since putting them in the ground, they've been growing like crazy. I just hope I don't regret putting them in the ground. Moving across to the front bed, you'll see we're using a Pilia fern plant as the border, and primarily native trees rather than palms. Notice I use a lot of bromeliads in my landscaping, and one of the reasons is because we are beekeepers and the bees like to go to the bromeliads for water. I also like them because they're an easy way to add color and they're such a hardy plant. Crotons are drought tolerant and they add so much color to my landscaping. I love to use them. I've had this one since it was a very small plant, and as you can see, it's doing quite well here. Look at those spirals in the leaves. Look at all those colors. Here is that diseased agave attenuata I bought on that Miami plant haul. Now, as you can see, it's doing quite well. I cut off all the leaves and it's growing back beautifully. And here's the desert rose that you may remember from the makeover. It's the one my daughter gave me as a very small plant. I've had it for years now. It was growing in the ground and doing very well and always in bloom. I couldn't handle the stress of it ever having to be moved again, so I opted for a pot this time. It's finally recovering from the move and giving me some more blooms. And over here is another agave attenuata. This one I actually bought as a cutting off of eBay about 2 years ago, and it's doing well now. And I just kind of am hoping that they'll fill in this area. And of course, I have to mention my Imperialis that I recently found at Lowe's for half price. Woo woo! I'm still so thrilled about that. And it's doing well. It's adjusting well to the environment. And over here is this sticks on fire that is gone wild. I'm still debating on whether or not to pull it up and put it in a pot or just cut it back some. But either way, it's got to be tamed. It's over 6 feet tall, and I have another one just like it right over here on the other side. This section has become so tall and heavy that it's actually fallen over due to its own weight. Now, I had never seen one of these until recently when I picked this up. This is actually a croton, and it's known as Picasso's paintbrush. Love it. Another new find is this variegated hibiscus known as a snow hibiscus. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love a plant that has, nice showy flowers, but can hold its own even when it's not in bloom. Look at those leaves. It looks like they were just hand painted. Now over to the bromeliad bed. And up here is a staghorn that we rescued a couple of years ago. It was going to be thrown out and it just hasn't been doing well. So we removed the tree house from the tree, and since then it's getting more sun, more water, and it looks like it's going to be okay. A project I'm currently working on is mounting some bromeliads and orchids to this tree. Showed you one of these plants on the other side of this tree. It looks like some kind of philodendron or something. It was already growing here when we bought the house. I think it's really cool how the roots grow down from the plant towards the ground. And this shepherd hook holds several of my orchids, and they absolutely love it over here. I have this dendrobium in bloom, and there's quite a few bloom spikes on the other ones as well. And I have some Spanish moss growing here. Here's some other ball of air plants, and then another air plant that I have growing out of a shell. But I have a sprinkler head at the top of this shepherd's hook, and other than that, they're left to do their own thing. They stay here year round. I really like working with bromeliads. I like the color that they bring to the landscape. This plant is a recent acquisition. I believe it's a bromeliad. I don't know anything about it. So if you know the name of this plant or anything about it, feel free to let me know. I'd appreciate it. This plant with the small white flowers is a dwarf jasmine. This thing smells absolutely amazing. I sit on my porch and it's all I smell in the evenings. Back here in bloom is a ground orchid that I actually purchased at Lowe's. Beautiful flowers. And here along the walkway in front of my porch is several planters, The two on the ends have pygmy date palms in them, and the rest of them have euphorbias, except for one has a blue cactus in there. And also planted in with them, I have some Thanksgiving cactus, some succulents, and with the pygmy date palm at the end is actually a golden pothos. It was actually a piece of a plant, and now it's gotten quite large. And here's my succulent fountain. The plants here have had a rough go with the rainy season, but these are what's left and what's hanging in there for me. Believe it or not, I actually picked this fountain up for, I don't remember if it was either $50 or $100 off of Craigslist. And that is my October garden tour for 2019. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and take time out to do something fabulous in your garden. Bye-bye.